the DA is sort of leading marginally, so the city of Johannesburg. I know for Gauteng as a whole, the ANC sort of just edging ahead. But it's really interesting because it means we're probably going to enter an era where coalition politics are going to become the norm. And that's really exciting. It implies that the people of the city and by and large people of the country are starting to hold political parties to account, starting to realize the value of not having just one dominant party.
What does it really say about the political space in terms of what may have affected the swing that we're seeing thus far in Johannesburg?
I think really what a lot of this election was viewed as initially was it's going to be more of a referendum based on the national issue, so people are dissatisfied with what's happening at national level. But at the same time, it's really encouraging to see people playing a more active role, and the swing in that is that I think people don't no longer blindly vote for what they've always voted for. So I think the ANC is seeing a sort of decreased majority. In a lot of areas, they probably still have one, but in the major metro areas particularly, people tend to own more property, have better access to education. You see this sort of swing happening that people don't just vote for the same traditional parties they've always voted for.
So we can say we are seeing more participation on the ground from voters in terms of turnout?
With this one, it's difficult to say. I think we expected to see more voter turnout, but sort of stories from voting stations and everybody's like, it was all quite, whether this is the IC having done a very fantastic job in terms of streamlining the process and everybody getting it done efficiently, or whether it not being as many voters turning out as we expected. I think we'll have to wait for the final results to see that.
Sure.
But I think what might be surprising in the final tally is how many people actually voted and the sort of age breakdown of those people. I think we expected maybe to see more youth votes, but at the same time, I think we know the youth, South African youth by and large, have hashtagged their way into getting what they want. So I don't know whether they value the democratic process as they should. So I think those are going to be interesting after the analysis afterwards for that. So who actually voted? But it's about being able to engage in a democratic process and not just protesting because you realize that there is a problem and then expecting that to be the final say for how you get change enacted. So it's a two-part thing.
Very important message in what you just said. You spoke about the reality of coalition government for Johannesburg. If you can elaborate on that in terms of why and how that would impact on governance, local governance here.
When I last checked, the EFF had about 9% of the vote. And that is added to the sort of 40% on each side that the DA and ANC have. That is your majority vote. So the EFF are definitely kingmakers in Johannesburg if the vote sort of stays, if the margins stay the same. If there's sort of no majority, it would be a coalition government more like between the DA and the EFF. Whatever that may look like, we can't exactly say. But that's just based solely on the fact that the EFF was very vocal in proclaiming that they would not go into a coalition with the ANC. So that's if we see a coalition, it's likely to be that way around. I think it's so difficult to say simply because I think by and large the EFF's views are fundamentally opposed with the views of the DA. I don't know where they would find common ground. I know as much as the EFF tend to be quite against what the ANC is doing, I think if you look at the policy level of what their views are and what they would want to do, they sort of align better. In some areas, coalitions would work better than others, but a massive city like this, that's a hub of business, I think you're going to struggle if you have a coalition between one party that is very business focused and then another party that's quite socialist.